record.
Great. I'm going to hop to the next one and remind them as well.
Yeah, thank you for the reminder.
Yep, no problem. Have a great session.
Sure, thank you. All right, hello everyone. And to those of you who just joined, thank you for being here. I think we'll get started, and if some other folks are getting on, we will make sure to say hello to them as well. So as you might see, the session is being recorded. I just wanted to let everyone know so you are aware of that. So again, thank you all for being here. I know it's been a long day of learning and connecting with each other. My name is Romy Huebler, and my pronouns are she, her, hers. I'm the director for civic engagement and social responsibility at Towson University. And my office supports students in developing the knowledge and the skills to address social challenges and to co-create their communities and society. So in this session, we will talk about the importance of reflection, especially related to completing volunteer hours or projects or working with community groups in any kind of capacity. So when I say community groups, that can be nonprofit organizations, it can be community organizers, so anything really that you're doing outside of the Towson University community. And sometimes even on the community, on the campus as well. So before we do so, I would like to get a sense of who you all are. And if you could just type in the chat what your, so I already see your name, but what your pronouns are, what organization you are with, and also what your role is with the organization. So again, your pronouns, your organization, and your role. And I'm going to give you a few seconds to type that, and it will really help me to get a sense of who's in the room. So thank you in advance for doing that. Hi, Jenna. I think I just saw you hop on. We're just doing introductions in the chat. So if you could put your pronouns, the organization, the club that you're with, as well as what your role is in the organization. And I'm going to give everyone a couple of minutes to do that. Walter, welcome. We're just doing introductions in the chat. So pronouns, role of organization, or organization, and then your role with the organization. Yes, Chester, absolutely. You can attend for more than one group. And yeah, so I see really a good mix of organization representing different areas. So that's very exciting. Thank you all. So in addition to introducing yourselves, it's also important for me to get a sense of why you're in this session. So what brings you here? What about reflection? What about community engagement? Are you curious about? Have you done reflection? Maybe do you want to know more about it? Or maybe you're completely new to the idea of reflection. And to answer that, not everyone has to answer. Maybe you want to answer that for yourself. Just really to center yourself on the session, right? So what brings you here? For those of you who would like to share with the group, feel free to unmute, or you can also put it in the chat. So I'm going to let you all just think about that and reflect on that question. What brings you here? And if you want to share with the group, please feel free to do so. Jenna, thank you for starting us off. So wanting to know more about how to reach out to people, self-reflection as the best way to grow as an individual, and in relation to understanding others, keeping people involved. And yeah, absolutely. So those are some great reflections there. Keep them coming. What I will do is I'll move us on to talk about the purpose of reflection. And then I will share a reflection guide with you that you can use with your organizations. And the guide has a number of activities. And I'll point out some of those activities that I think are particularly relevant to the kinds of community engagement that you might do with your organizations. And then if there's time, we can take some questions and also work through some scenarios or concerns perhaps that you have about incorporating reflection and running reflection with your peers. So when we think about reflection, the purpose really is, there are multiple purposes, right? But one of them is to help members of your club or student organization to process their thoughts and feelings, right? So process thoughts and feelings related to the community engagement project that they just did. And to do that both individually, but also as a group. Then another purpose is to think critically about their experiences and imagine ways to move forward, again, on the individual level, but also on the collective level. And then that community building piece, right? So the summit really has focused on community, and reflection is a great opportunity to build community among members of your group, because you are opening up to one another, you're learning from one another and with each other. So again, processing thoughts and feelings, thinking critically about the experience, and thinking about ways to move forward individually and collectively, and then building that community. So what I'm going to do now is put the link to the reflection guide in the chat. The sharing settings should allow you to access it, but let me know if that is not the case, if you have problems with accessing the link that I just put. Okay, all right, so it seems like everyone has access, or at least I haven't heard anything differently. Do interrupt if that is, if it is an issue. So in the guide here, you have, again, the purpose of reflection that I just shared with you. When you're thinking about incorporating reflection, you want to consider the different types of reflections that are out there, and then think about when is a good time to reflect. And then I included some tips on facilitation. And so that's also very important. And I'm going to stick here for a moment just to make sure that when you run reflection sessions, yeah, Jenna, it should be printable. You can download it and then you can print it from there. So when you are facilitating reflection, make sure that you encourage everyone to participate. And so you will have different kind of personalities in your group. So that means you might want to encourage some people to step up and others to step back. And just that space is shared. And as you will all know from just being in this world, right? Some folks, they process, and it just takes a little bit longer to share, while you have folks who are ready to jump in. So making sure that you allow that time and just really giving space for folks to collect their thoughts and be okay with silence. And then the other very important piece is keeping track of time. So if there is an agenda and you have an end time and you're approaching the end time, you might need to negotiate and say something like, we still have 4 more people to go, but we only have 2 minutes left. I want to make sure that we give everyone an opportunity to share. So can we add on 5 minutes to our meeting time today, for example, right? So that's a way to kind of navigate that. There are lots of other kinds of facilitation tips and tricks here. So just make sure that you read those. I want to point out a few reflection activities. And what you will see here is that each reflection activity has a recommendation, right? So depending on what your community engagement looks like. So is this a one-time, I'm going to go maybe to a shelter to give out food and support meal service, right? So that's a one-time kind of community engagement project. So you want to look for activities where it says recommended as part of any community engagement experience. Versus some other ones, if you do have a recurring project, or maybe it's a semester-long experience, there are some other kinds of reflection that you can do. So some of the things that have worked really well is choosing a picture, right? So that can be on a phone, or it can be an actual picture that folks bring in. And so let's say you want to do something with a shelter for folks who are experiencing homelessness or housing insecurity, then your specific topic would be housing insecurity. And you can ask folks to bring in pictures that represent, that are connected to that topic, as well as images perhaps that they have from their own experiences, and then just ask questions about that picture. So why did you choose it? What experiences have you had that made you choose that picture? And how does housing insecurity relate to our everyday lives, right? So that's a great opportunity to center your group on the kind of social issue that they are about to encounter, and to have a conversation. And when you go as a student organization to a shelter, you will have a better understanding of who you are as an individual, but also as a collective made up of individuals who bring different experiences to the space. And that will then also be a good kind of opportunity for post-reflection. So yeah, so pictures, that's an easy way to connect with folks. Journaling, right? So when we're thinking about different learning styles, some folks will really like to, or want to talk about, verbally express their kind of feelings or emotions, or the learning that they're taking away. And for others, it might be in written form. And so thinking about how can I support all of my members in the organization, and through the kind of learning style that is best suited. And so kind of switching it up, right? So individual journaling, you could, as a leader of the organization, provide a journal to everyone in your group. And if you have ongoing community engagement projects, service projects, then you can ask them to do that journaling throughout the semester or throughout their time in your organization. And so there are many kind of questions that you can ask, and it can be something like, just describe what happened. What did you see? How did it land with you? What emotions did it stir? What questions do you have, right? So there are many questions that you can ask related to the experience and for folks to journal. A pair and share. So instead of doing reflection in the large group, you can just have folks turn to one another and talk about, here's what I experienced, what was it like for you, right? So that might feel more comfortable. And especially also if you have a large student organization and you had 10, 20, 30 of your members go, then having a large group conversation, you might not have the time to do, but you can do that pair share and still get some reflection out of it. Highs and lows are a super easy thing to do, right? So name one high, name one low of the experience. And that's, if you do have a large group and you want to hear from everyone, that's a great way to go around and just kind of get a sense of what the experience was like. Yeah, so there are lots of different activities here. I'm not going to go through all of them. And I want you to have this guide as a resource. And so you have the link, you can return to it at any time. I want to pause here and just get a sense from you all about what questions you have, what else would be helpful for me to share and talk about, given that we only have a short amount of time together today. And yeah, so what questions do you have? What thoughts do you have? What comes up for you? Any comments? And again, feel free to put that in the chat if that feels more comfortable for you to engage, or you can also unmute and ask that way. So I'm going to give you 30 seconds to just think about that and type something up or unmute. So Jenna, thank you for your question. Can you say more about how you would use software engineering topics to work with community organizations? Are there some particular social challenges that you would connect those software engineering topics to? So Jenna, I'm still not quite sure about the connection, but what I will say is that reflection is suitable in any kind of space, right? So you can reflect on your classes. How's the distribution of power in my class working out, right? Like, how much power do I have as a student in this classroom? Or you can think about even your student organizations, right? Like, how much power does the executive board have versus the members? Who sets the agenda? Who is the one who speaks the most? How are we working out turn taking? How are we inviting people in to speak, right? So racial bias in software design, absolutely, right? So that is a social topic that you can connect the reflection to. You can look at texts too, or perhaps if there is a study of software companies, right? Who leads those companies? What is kind of the racial or gender makeup of those companies? And what does that mean for me, who might not reflect what we typically see? And you can have conversations about that. And I kind of do that that reflection piece there. Yeah, and workplaces, absolutely. I think that is often sometimes that we often don't see the workplace as a space that we can actually change, right? And the same goes for universities. We often enter spaces and we think, oh, this is the way it is. And my job is to accommodate myself to the structure and to the culture, but not necessarily to look and say, in this space, I don't feel welcomed, or I don't feel like I have a voice. And then figuring out, well, what is actually going on here? And is that something that is like a cultural script, right? It's like, is this something that extends throughout the organization? And how is that landing with other folks who are here? Do they all agree with this? Or is there perhaps something where through things like storytelling, which is another reflection practice, you can figure out, am I the only one, or are there other folks who are allies, and we can work together to perhaps shift the culture a little bit? Yeah. What else are you all thinking about? How would you use this with your organizations? Or what concerns do you have? What questions do you have about facilitation? Yeah, thank you, Chester. Right. So storytelling is a super powerful tool, and it's often something that we either don't incorporate, or so there is this idea of connection before content, right? So, and what that means is a lot of times we start meetings or working on projects or group work, or connecting with community organizations by talking about the what and the how. But we're not really taking, right? So we're talking about the content, but we're not necessarily starting with that connection piece of, why are we here? What experiences have brought us here? Why do we care about these things? And then building your community within your organization based on that shared understanding of who you are, why you are there, and what you're hoping to contribute to your organization, to the community, to the world, right? So yeah, storytelling, that is a way that you can really make sure that you answer that why question, and build that connection before you start focusing on kind of the content of the project and what the project looks like. So how do you make people want to engage and not feel forced to engage? A lot of it is modeling and sharing your own personal story, right? Like, to come back to what Chester is saying. And yeah, being genuine, not being scripted, and for people to see you as the leader of the organization, as someone they can trust, and someone who opens up. And by opening up and sharing a piece of yourself, it encourages other people to do that as well. But to create a space where it isn't forced, right? So making it okay to say, okay, so we will all share when it comes time for you to share and you're not ready, you can pass and we'll come back to you at the end, right? Or to even say, this is going to feel different than a lot of other spaces. And that's okay, right? Like just connect with kind of that sense of, oh, this is different and I don't know if I'm ready, but it's in that vulnerability that we're able to connect and really shift the challenges that we're hoping to address through the work that we're doing in the organization. So it's perfectly fine to name that you're going to break some social scripts, and that those social scripts often get in the way of our ability to be together and to connect. Yeah. So we have time for maybe one more question or thought. So if there's anything else that you all want to share, now is the time. Yeah, so breaking the scripts, right, can enhance the connection, absolutely. And being gentle with breaking the scripts, or also saying that is what you're doing and why you're doing it, right? So the why is really important. Tips for applying this to younger organizations, Walter, absolutely. We are getting to the end of our time. So what I will do is I will put my contact information in the chat. So please feel free to send an email and I'm happy to meet with you. There are other members of my team as well who have some great ideas and absolutely happy to support you on that journey. And these kinds of things that we talked about are great for any kind of organization at any time along that journey. And if the organization is just starting out, you really have a great opportunity to create that culture from the beginning. And so, yeah, Walter, I will be looking out for your email, and then we can go from there. I will also put another link in the chat, which is a link to sign up for the newsletter for our department. And so there you will find a lot of different opportunities, programs that we're doing throughout the year. It's a monthly newsletter, so please do sign up so that you will have some opportunity to see what I talked about in practice and be part of it, and get some ideas of how you can incorporate it with your organizations. So with that, we are at the end of our time. So thank you again for being here. And I hope to connect with you outside of the summit. And good luck with the semester. And yeah, I hope to see you all. Thank you again.
Is there anything that we have to fill out to prove that we attended?
That's a question for Chris.
Okay.
And yeah, so if just send an email to Chris Rendosh, and yeah.
Okay,
We'll
thank
be
you.
able to answer that. Sure, absolutely. Bye, everyone.